Hello, this is the UD Factor, a program that understands that knowledge is power. And therefore, week after week, we discuss issues and empower you with information to enable you make informed choices, especially when you factor in something you heard on the UD Factor into your situation. A couple of months ago, we did interview Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo, and he did empower us with information on wealth creation. And on that program,
Number one, I said start a company. And when I say start a company, it will cost you to have a limited liability company. Please do. Don't do an enterprises. Enterprises is not a company because the Nigerian tax law is becoming stronger. And if money is in your enterprises, it is still seen as your money. But if it is in a limited liability company, the money in the company is company. The money in your pocket is your pocket.
today we have an expert who will be talking to us about registering a limited liability company. Wale Ararumi, partner, Lex and Sophie, legal practitioner, and intellectual properties firm. Already he's telling me that the UD Factor is not a registered name. That is another topic for another day. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you after this time out. We are back. Wale, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for coming on such short notice.
My pleasure.
I'm honored. Well, today we're going to be talking about company registration. On this program, we did talk about wealth creation. And my guest at the time said, no matter what you do, own your own company. So, why limited liability company? Why register a company?
Okay. Thank you, Yudi. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Right? Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo is a well-informed man,
Okay.
obviously. Yeah, and he said the right thing. They said the right thing. Now, I think before we go into all the details, I think it would be very apt to define a company, since that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Now, what is a company? There is actually no strict legal definition of a company. Yeah? So a company can be simply defined as an association of persons or groups of persons or persons and bodies coming together for the purpose of doing some activities for making profits. In other words, commercial activities. Then you have basically three types of companies. Okay? Now, we have the company limited by shares, we have the company limited by guarantee, and we have the unlimited company. For the purpose of our discussion today and our viewers at home, we'll be talking about the companies limited by shares. Okay? Now, having spoken about companies, you have the company limited by shares, and you have the partnership, which we popularly call enterprises or business ventures. There is a gulf between the limited liability company and the enterprise or the partnership. Okay. Now, why register a limited liability company and not a partnership?
Okay.
The partnership, let me start with that.
Which is what? Enterprise.
Which is an enterprise.
Okay.
Which is an enterprise or a business venture.
Okay.
I would describe that as a sort of, in quotes, informal company. It's not a company in that strict sense of it, even though it's statutory and is recognized by law.
Yes.
Okay? This can be done by an individual or an individual and another individual. Partnership, we all know what a partnership is. This does not require all the strict regularities of a limited liability company. The main difference between the limited liability company and the partnership are that the limited liability company is a corporate entity that has perpetual succession. What do I mean by that? It does not die. with the owners. It is separate from the owners. It is a corporate entity. It is a legal person. It is separate from the owners. And that has been clearly settled in law. There is a very popular case. It's a Salomon versus Salomon and Co. in the UK that put that on the board and defined that clearly. Okay. Now, if the owners of a partnership, if any of the partners in a partnership dies, that could be the end of the partnership. If it's a sole-owned business enterprise, if the owner dies, that's the end of it. The common phrase for it is one-man show.
Okay.
It is usually called a one-man show. That's what we call it, generally. So if the one man dies, that's the end of it. It's gone, it's finished. But a limited liability company, a company on the other hand, it's an entity on its own. It's different and separate from the owners. It has its own life. So if there are, for example, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6 shareholders who are members, if any of them dies, if 3 out of the 5 should die, the company remains.
Let me ask you.
Yes.
When you're talking about the enterprise, it's about the owner dying. Take, for instance, you opened an enterprise and you're running the business with your son or your daughter, and then you die. Can't your daughter continue with that same name doing that business? Because I know that a lot of people who have enterprises registered, that's what they do.
Okay. Now, yes, your daughter, your son, or your wife, or your husband can continue.
Okay.
But more often than not, it doesn't happen that way. You understand?
Yes.
More often than not, it doesn't happen that way. They are part of the partnership, if it's a partnership, if they were part of the formation process.
Yes.
And they're also registered as partners in the business enterprise. Yes. So they can continue. But we all know, more often than not, it doesn't happen that way. Particularly where you have more than, in a polygamy, is a family business. Then that family squabble arises. But in a limited liability company, it's prevented from that. It doesn't happen. The owners are clearly distinct from the company itself. The running of a company is strictly separate from the owners. That's why you have the directors and you have the shareholders. The shareholders in a limited liability company are not involved in the day-to-day administration of the business.
Hold the thought, Wally. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We are back. If you're just joining us, today we're talking about company registration. Yes.
In a company,
Yes.
if one of the members, one of the shareholders, one of the owners should die,
Yes.
or 2 or 3, the company has perpetual succession. It is guaranteed. The company cannot die unless deliberate actions are taken by the owners to kill it. It's called winding up, to wind it up. If it's not wound up by the owners, a nuclear bomb cannot kill it. As long as that certificate of incorporation is still there, and as long as it fulfills all its requirements for existence.
Like?
So many. It's supposed to file certain returns annually at
tax.
the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, pay its taxes, file its annual returns, and so on. As long as it keeps doing this, and it is not deregistered, it lives forever. Even where it doesn't do this regularly, it will just be subjected to payment of penalties. It still lives on. So these are not even automatic ground, for the demise of the company. So the only automatic ground is winding up. If the owners decide that, okay, we want to wind this up, or maybe creditors say, hey, you're owing too much and you can't pay us, we need to wind you up. Then you look for liquidator. They want to liquidate the company so that they can realize their credit facilities and all that. Aside that, it has perpetual
Okay,
succession.
somebody watching, now that you have told them the benefits of owning, like this company not dying, and when somebody says, how do I go about registering this limited liability company you've talked about?
Okay.
So what's the process? Where do I start?
Okay, let me drop this proviso.
Okay.
Now, this is not legal advice to our viewers at home.
I know.
Because
It's just
this
a
is
process.
generic, it's a
Yes,
process.
yes,
So
it's just a process.
for specific and proper legal advice, viewers at home are advised to go to their solicitors
Yes.
who will give them proper advice.
Yes.
But for the purpose of education,
Yes.
general education.
basic.
The basics,
Yes.
yes. Now, you want to register a limited liability company. What do? You
Who
talk
do I
to
go to?
Yeah, you go to your solicitor.
Okay.
So your solicitor gives you the requirements,
Which are?
which are, number one, you supply the necessary details. Number one, he's going to ask you the name or names for the company, proposed name or names for the company. Why is that important? Number one, it's important because definitely the company must have an identity, a name. Number two, the solicitor has to give you an advice because there are laws guiding the names as well. There are prohibited names and there are names that are allowed, okay? So certain names are not allowed. So the solicitor is going to advise on this. So once you give the name, then he's going to conduct what is called availability search to confirm if the name has not been taken by another company or if the name is not similar to an existing company. Because the law says that no company shall be registered in a name that is similar to that of an existing company. Okay? Then it's going to ask you what are the particulars of the shareholders. Who will be the shareholders? So you need to supply that as well. Who will be the directors? Because you have the shareholders and you have the directors. Who will be the directors? You have to supply that as well. The law is that there has to be a minimum of 2 directors for the limited liability company. Yes. Okay? Then you're going to have to supply the details of the directors, the details of the shareholders, their names, their addresses, their phone numbers, blah-de-da-de-da.
And passport pictures.
Well, for the registration of a limited liability company, you don't necessarily need the passport pictures.
Okay.
But for registration of an enterprise, you need the passport picture. Because like we said, it's a one-man business. So the man is the enterprise.
And that's why he's
That's why he has to be there. You know? So that if anything goes wrong with that ABC enterprise, they know who they want to go. They know who they want to go after. You know? But we'll come back to this later.
Yes.
If anything goes wrong with the limited liability company, they may not necessarily go after the shareholder. That's another advantage of a limited liability company. In fact, that's why it has the name limited liability. We'll explain that later. So the other things the solicitor is going to ask the prospective company owner is also the address of the company, the proposed address. The law says it must have one as well, okay? Then very importantly, the business objects, that is the business or businesses that the company wants to engage in. The law wants to know this as well. Now there are laws concerning this because there are certain businesses that the owners may want to go into. The law requires that, for example, if you want to go into consultancy services, maybe legal consultancy, maybe financial consultancy, maybe engineering consultancy, the law requires that you must have proof of proficiency in that field. And you must provide that. It must be part of the documents that will be submitted, that will be filed for the registration. So if I want to set up a company as to provide legal, professional legal services and consultancy, I must have certificates of professionalism, a professional certificate from the law school. I must provide that as well. Okay? So now, then he will also ask, what is the share capital, the proposed share capital for the company? There are laws guiding that as well. a private limited liability company must have a minimum of 10,000 naira share capital. Then it goes on above that. So,
do you pay for the share capital?
well, what you pay for is you pay the filing fee,
Okay.
which is pro rata. You pay stamp duty on the share capital, that's pro rata.
Okay.
Then the filing fee, in a way pro rata as well, but it's 10,000 naira per every 1 million. You know,
That's
so you
cheap.
pay filing fee. Yeah, it's
That's
cheap.
cheap.
It's very cheap, right?
cheap.
So, but when you're talking of 100 million
Yes.
naira, 1 billion
Yes,
naira,
yes,
then
that's
why
You need to
know,
pay it back.
that's it. That's what you need to do. Do I need that big? I don't need that big. a company,
I'm just
actually.
1 million
I mean,
naira.
1 million is okay for me. You understand?
Yeah.
So then you let him know the share capital.
Yeah.
And he's also going to ask you, what's going to be the ratio of shareholding?
Yes.
Among the shareholders, what's the ratio? Is it going to be 10%, 25%, 30%? You know, so that also has to be known because all these have to be indicated so that tomorrow there won't be anything like, hey, I am the owner. The documents are there. So we just go back to the documents to confirm. What's your level of ownership in this?
Hold the thoughts. Hold the thoughts.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. If you're just joining us, well, we're talking about company registration. So in these
Thank
remaining moments, you'll just give us the remaining facts we need to know about
Okay.
registering a company.
Now, the other facts you need to know is after the briefing,
Yes.
the solicitor gets
Okay, you
all
sit
these,
with your solicitor.
Oh,
and you-
yes.
Okay.
You know, so he debriefs you. He gets all these necessary details from you. Then there are the statutory forms. The form CAC2, from CAC7.
CO7.
Yes, CAC 2.1, CAC 3, you know. So he's going to fill all these forms for you with the information you have provided. He fills all these forms for you. He prepares what you call the memorandum and articles of association of the company. This constitutes the constitution of the company. This also embodies the rights, the duties, the obligations of the owners of the company. This also contains the businesses that the company can do. Now, the company is limited to those businesses. If it does anything outside those registered businesses, it's now termed as acting ultra vires its powers. It's doing something beyond its powers. It's not registered to do. Another topic for another day.
Yes.
Yeah. So he prepares the memo and articles. After preparing all these documents, he gets the clients and the other shareholders and directors to execute, to endorse the signatures on them. Then he pays the appropriate fees. He gets the memo and articles and the Form CAC2 to be stamped at the Stamp Duty Registry, the FIRS. You know, so he pays stamp duty on them, then he files everything at the Corporate Affairs Commission Abuja, which is the body set up by law to register and to regulate companies in Nigeria, companies and business enterprises in Nigeria. That process takes about, give or take, depending on, you know, operating circumstances at that point in time.
Okay.
Yes. It could take anything between 3 weeks and X number of months.
But that's up to a year.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. If that should happen, wow, then don't let's think about that. Okay? All right.
Okay.
So once it's completed,
Yes.
as in hitch-free processing, then the CAC issues what you call the certificate of incorporation. So with this, the company is alive. That's the birth certificate of the company. So if we're talking of Wole Araromi Nigeria Limited,
Yes.
that's my birth certificate, and that's what I take everywhere. So now the company can now go and start doing business. Goes to open an account, the bank is going to ask for
all these
documents, those forms, CAC7, CAC2, and the memorandum and articles, certified through copies. So the solicitor would have applied for this ahead, and this will be submitted to the company. So basically, that's the requirements. That's the process in a nutshell. Of course, it's a bit more expanded than that,
I know.
but just for this discussion,
This is the basic that you need.
Basically, that's what you need. Now, for a business enterprise, it's not as complex as that. That is just a single form. Okay, that's the man or the man and
will
his,
just fill,
yes, or
sign,
the man
put
and
his
wife
passport.
sign and put his passport. I just state it there, and they take it to the same CAC for registration. It's quicker, it's faster. It doesn't take as long as the limited liability company. Now, some of the other differences between the two is that, and I will call it an advantage. In a limited liability company, the shareholders are separate and distinct from the company, and they are also protected from liability in case there is a problem with the company. For example, if the company obtains a loan from the bank and is unable to pay back as and when due, the bank cannot go. For example, UD Nigeria Limited.
Yes.
The bank cannot now go to you, UD, and say, UD,
He's owing me.
the company is owing.
So what do
And
they
you're-
do?
Yeah, they can't do that because you are separate from the company. That's what was decided in Salomon and Salomon and Co. Okay?
But I went to get the money from the bank.
Yeah. Well, you went as an agent of the company
company.
because the company is a legal person, but is an artificial person. The company cannot act by itself. It acts through agents, its directors.
But
So-
the directors cannot be held responsible.
They
when
cannot. The shareholders cannot be held responsible.
I better register 20 companies and go and get loans from the
Now,
bank.
now there is now there is a proviso.
Okay.
There is a proviso. There are provisos, right?
Yes.
Now, if the company is owing,
Yes.
the bank cannot get to the company, or creditors cannot get their money from the company. The shareholders are protected. They are immune, cocoon from liability
Yes.
as per that loan. However, they could have liability if they have certain sums unpaid on their shares. We talked about shares.
Yes.
And we talked about some shareholders, this one owning
Yes,
10%
yes,
or
one owning-
15%.
yes.
So, for example, if UD and Wale are the two shareholders
Yes.
in UD Nigeria Limited,
Yes.
if you have 50% shares and I have 50% shares,
Yes.
if I have paid up my shares fully, maybe my 50% come to 5 million.
Okay.
If I have paid my 5 million, if you have paid only, maybe your 50% also comes to 5 million. If you have paid only
1 million.
1 million out of your 5 million, then you have 4 million outstanding. So at that time, when the liquidators come calling, then they can come against you for that unpaid balance, 4 million. That will be your liability. That's why it's called a limited liability company. Your liability is limited to the amount unpaid on your shares.
So how does the bank get its loan back that the company got?
The bank must have obtained from the company what is called collateral security.
Okay.
That's also another.
Let's topic for another
yes.
day.
So the bank must have gotten collateral security. In most cases, it will be an asset that the company has
That the bank will go
that
after.
the bank will go after. So if the company has a property, a real estate, and it submitted the title deed, the C of O.
So the bank will
yes, then there would have been a mortgage. They have mortgaged that to the company for that facility. So there would have been a deed of mortgage in place. And the
So,
bank would
so
have
you'd advise
registered
viewers
that.
when they want to register a company, they should go for a limited liability.
I will advise viewers when they want to register a company, viewers at home, register a limited liability company.
No matter what it's going to cost
No matter what it's going to cost you. The advantages are
Outweigh.
are immense. For example, if you want to bid for projects, certain companies, particularly
Want a limited liability company.
big companies, international companies, they want to deal with corporate
And then if you buy properties in the name of that company, when you die, the government cannot come there and ask for inheritance tax. That's
When-
what we heard on the...
Yudi, how come you know all the
I
back
know
door? It's all the way out tactics that you know. You seem to know them. Yeah.
That's why the people need to know
Yes,
about the company.
they need to know.
Wale,
you know.
we can't finish this in
We
one
cannot.
episode. I'll always come back to you to
Please
come and
feel free.
discuss more on this company so that people will get to know why it is important to register a limited liability company. It's been wonderful just talking to you. I've had a wonderful time. And I look forward to having you again on this program. I hope you don't mind. On short notice, though.
Well, if it can be longer, I won't mind.
It will. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Every time we come on air, we want to make sure you leave with at least one information. And if there's any subject you want us to discuss on, please send us an email and visit our Facebook page, leave your comments. Visit us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for liking our program. The likes just keep coming in. I thank you very much. It's been a pleasure bringing you this program. Have a good week ahead of you. God bless. Goodbye. And this is My Factor.